fellow said one time, he said, the reason why we got a whole nation full of atheists is because our young people have never seen God do anything. And I think that's a very interesting statement, because you can't mess around that soil as a farmer or a gardener without believing in God. It's impossible. Because you know the explanations for it. I read all the books on it, but you can't explain it. You take a carrot seed. You ever see how small those things are? You take a carrot seed, an onion seed, or a spinach seed. Those things are so small, you can hardly hand them with a pair of tweezers. And those things, and lettuce is bad too. It's thin, like a little piece of pine needle. You take all them seeds and spread them out here like this. I'll plant, along about February, I'll plant potatoes. Now you can put in corn about March, and then beans at the end of March. Can't put in the old kernel about into April. Ground got to be warm. You can tell when it's warm. Walk around your bare feet. It's warm enough to put in the okra. I plant that stuff in the spring. Now you take all those seeds out and lay them like that on the thing there, and if you weren't a gardener, didn't fool with gardening, you wouldn't know what was there. You get a pumpkin seed or a grapefruit seed or a old black-eyed pea or a Crowder or purple hull pea, some of them are big enough to identify. But those little dots there, and even the big ones, if you didn't know what they were, you'd think, well, they must be awful similar. I mean, they're all about the same color. They're no bright seeds. They're all dull brown or dull gray or dull yellow or dull green or gray green or brown green, all those things sitting there. Now, you're a farmer, you know what those things are, but if a person is looking at them, there's just a bunch of spots sitting out there. You put one of them things in the ground, and something goes up 8 feet in the air. Now, there's velvet leaves to it, and if you're in a cornfield at night, up in Indiana, Illinois, where they grow 8 feet high, and, 400 acres at a time, you can hear that stuff growing at night. I've heard people say you could do that, and I thought they were lying. And one night up there in Indiana, I got out of the car and walked out one of them fields at night, and you hear them growing. The plant's stretching, or they're growing out there in that field. That thing comes out, here comes a couple of things on it that long, and that thing that you put it down is around that thing, 100 of them around that thing like that. Now, you can explain that chlorophyll, nitrogen cycle, and all that gas. Well, what are you going to do with that? You take the other and put it in the ground, and takes the vine, goes clean across that room, back over here someplace, and out comes something out that sucker weighs 40 or 50 pounds. That big full of water. How'd that water get in there? You say through the vine. You kidding? That vine isn't sticking my little finger. The thing's all full of water. You say, well, don't tell me that, man. I've grown squash, and squash has a hollow stem to it, which would pick up every drop of water that came down. The hollow stems. If a little rain, you get every drop right through there, and the squash don't get any bigger. So big, Big one up in here, small one down here. And here's this watermelon with this vine. It's not as big as your little finger, and it feels solid, and the thing winds up, it's all full of water. Fellow said one time, he said, God didn't know what he was doing, because he put that little thin vine in that watermelon, and he had that great big oak tree there, that little nut that big on it. About that time, one of those acorns fell off and hit a guy, and the Christian said, aren't you glad he didn't grow watermelons in trees? Now you take that thing right there, you take a little thing right there, you put one of those things down, out it comes a bunch of balls bigger like a softball, they're red. That'll come along cucumbers, they're green. Out come this thing sitting there, yellow. Out comes the onion, you start to cover it up, and the book says, don't cover it up, you pull the onion, you pull the dirt back. It's got to grow on the top. You start pulling it back off the carrots, and the book says, no, you can't do it with the carrot. You pull it back on the top, it'll get green on the top, it won't be a good eat, you got to put dirt over it. You couldn't explain that mess with an explaining machine. Every one of those things got its own characteristics, and that pepper you pick out there has got 50 seeds in it, and any one of those 50 seeds can make a pepper plant with a pepper with 50 seeds, except there'll be 8, 9, and 10 peppers per bush, with 50 in each one of them. I don't care what the chemists say, they never convince me. You know how many people Adam had in him, inside his body? Over 6 billion. Yeah, how about that? Scientific explanation, they don't explain anything. You know what these fellows do? They just assign a word to a thing so they'll know it the next time it shows up. That's all they do. They don't explain anything. They can't understand nothing. I often wonder about the resurrection, what size you're going to be. I may have said God gives it a body that pleases him. I never planted nothing in the ground that came up the same size as what was put in. You take okra and put an old okra down, here comes the stalk, keeps growing until October. They'll grow down there. They'll grow down there April, May, June, July, August, September, October, and finally gets over your head. You're picking off these okra things off it, but you put in a thing, I'm telling you, it's not as big as your fingernail. What's all that stuff doing in that thing that isn't as big as your fingernail? Oh, microscope and the atoms and the yeah, I know, the quasars and the quasars and the pipsqueaks and all that kind of stuff. But you're not explaining it. You're just putting something there so you can tell people you know how it works. You can't explain that stuff. Now, if the resurrection is going to be like that, I don't know, man. I don't know. But nothing comes up the size it goes down. It comes up 5 times as big, 10 times as big, or 200 times as big, or 500 times as big. There were giants in the earth in those days or something. Nothing like a Bible to clear up a college education.